sixth session, that notwithstanding the provision of Standing Order 27, subsection 1, providing for the date of commencement of a new session, the House shall resume for the sixth session on Tuesday, January 25th, 2022 at 2:30 p.m. That is also proposed in the calendar of the House for the fifth session 2021. That motion will be moved by the leader of the majority party. We are waiting for quorum of the House, and as we speak, the quorum bell is being rung, and it is important to note that due to the health protocols provided by the Ministry of Health, the National Assembly has moved to ensure that social distancing is adhered to. The chamber, which normally hosts all members of the National Assembly, can only accommodate a limited number of members, and other spaces have been provided for members to utilize and participate in the legislative process. The House is looking to ensure that it is able to stem the spread of COVID-19 within the precincts of Parliament. This is the second sitting of the National Assembly after the long recess. Yesterday, the members of the National Assembly did convene. They did approve the list of nominees to the House Business Committee. The members also did take some time to eulogize the late former cabinet minister and former member of parliament for Nyaribari Chache, Honorable Simeon Nyachae, who passed on last week. The members of parliament did pay glowing tributes to their fallen former colleague, and that is in keeping with the tradition of the National Assembly. Just a quick recap of the business which will be debated this morning. A number of procedural motions have been lined up, and these procedural motions seek to limit debate on various businesses. It includes individual bills, debate on motions, debate on committee reports, debate on reports of audit committees, debate on sessional papers, debate on the address by the President, debate on reports of constitutional commissions and independent offices, debate on annual estimates and committee of supply. The procedural motions will also seek to limit debate on the Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, as well as consideration of certain businesses or business received during the recess periods. The House will also debate a motion by the leader of the majority party on the approval of the calendar of the House for the fifth session 2021, which began yesterday. Among the notable amendments to the calendar of the National Assembly is the suspension of Wednesday, February 10th, 2021 afternoon sitting. Normally, the House do sit on Wednesday morning and Wednesday afternoon, but according to the proposed changes, those sittings that the House ought to have had on Wednesday will be suspended should the members approve the calendar for the House for the fifth session.
So therefore, I invoke Standing Order number 34, which allows me to ask that it can ring for another further 5 minutes. And that's the order I make. Another 5 minutes. Yes.
the House has not been able to achieve the requisite quorum needed for business to commence. The quorum bell was initially rung for 10 minutes, but the Speaker has invoked the standing orders to order for the quorum bell to be rung for another 5 minutes, so that those members who are within the vicinity or within the precincts of Parliament can take their seat either in the chamber or other spaces which have been provided for by the House leadership to be utilized as chambers. They include the members' lounge as well as other spaces which have been designated to operate as the chamber, considering that the House cannot accommodate all the members due to the guidelines provided by the Ministry of Health in regards to the war on COVID-19. The quorum bell will be rung for 5 minutes, and hopefully the House will be able to quorate so that the business that is meant to be transacted by the House can proceed. Standing Order number 34 on quorum at commencement of the House says that a quorum of the House or a committee of the whole shall be 50 members. If there is not a quorum present when the chair is taken, at the time appointed for a meeting of the House immediately after the saying of the prayer, the Speaker shall order the bell to be rung for 10 minutes. And if no quorum is present at the expiration of the 10 minutes, the Speaker may direct that the bell be rung for a further 5 minutes. And if there is still no quorum present, the Speaker shall adjourn the House forthwith to the next sitting.
The following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. First paper is the report of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect to the Capital Markets Authority for the year ended 30th of June 2020 and the certificates therein. Number two, the reports of the Auditor General and the financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 30th of June 2019 and the certificates therein. One is the Rural Enterprise Fund. Number two, the Prisons Farms Revolving Fund. Number three, the National Exchequer Account. Number four, the Africa Union and other international organizations subscription fund. Number five, the Veterinary Services Development Fund. Number six, the Kenya Energy Sector Environment and Social Responsibility Program Fund. Number seven, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Staff Mortgage and Car Loan Scheme. Number eight, the State Department for Devolution. And number nine, the State Department for Tourism.
Very well. So let's go to the next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
We will start with let's start with a statement. Let's have a statement. I think it's the only one we have. The member for Chebalungu.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity to air statement. This is a request for statement on leopard menace in Chebalungu constituency. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 42.2c, I seek to request a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Environmental and Natural Resources regarding failure by the Kenya Wildlife Service to address an ongoing leopard menace in Chepalungu constituency. Honorable Speaker, I wish to bring to the attention of the House the presence of a leopard having 4 cubs that is causing havoc in Simbeyuet village, being one location, Shongroi ward of Chepalungu constituency, which I represent. The leopard, which was first spotted 5 months ago, has so far killed 10 goats, 5 donkeys, and several dogs while hiding in a nearby sugarcane farm owned by Professor Simeon Maritim. Honorable Speaker, I have personally restraining the villagers against confronting the leopard in spite of the mounting losses. However, their patience is gradually wearing out in view of the fact that the continuous danger posed by the leopard living in their midst is causing unbearable tension and anxiety. School-going children heading to school early in the morning or coming late after preps are doing so in great fear. And the same anxiety has also affected work in farms because of fear of imminent leopard attacks. Honorable Speaker, Chepalungu constituency hosts several forests and also neighbors the Masai Mara Game Reserve. And as a result, human life conflicts are the order of the day. Despite efforts by myself and other leaders to sensitize our people not to kill wild animals whenever they stray to their farms, the KWS has proven to be unreliable and an impediment in this campaign. Honorable Speaker, I have on numerous occasions approached KWS to trap the leopard and take it back to the forest, but my pleas and advice have fallen on deaf ears. KWS has never made any effort to trap the animal, nor has it contacted the people who have lost livestock to the leopard with a view to compensating them. Honorable Speaker, it is on account of these concerns that I seek for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources on the following: within which specific timelines shall the KWS capture and relocate the leopard and its cubs from the aforementioned residential area in order to forestall the possibility of residents taking the matter into their own hands? Number 2, what form of compensation will KWS provide for residents who have lost livestock to the marauding leopard, and within which timeline shall be compensation be undertaken? What short and long-term measures does the government have in addressing perpetual human-wildlife conflicts occasioned when wild animals stray into human settlements? Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It's something that really needs urgent attention, because now the school-going children and farming activities has been stopped for a while because of this wild leopard. Thank you, Speaker.
That's obviously a very serious and dire situation. And I'll give a few members to buttress the statement that you are going to, the receipt of what you have. So let me give a few more members. And probably I'll give 4. I will be looking out at members whom I know are very close to the situation, like what Honorable Member for Chepalungu is. And let me start with the leader of minority. And then I can also see somebody who is very close to Savo there, another one close to Meru National Park, and another one close to Masai Mara, in that order. And then I'll see if you want an extra few, then we can finish it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for allowing me to make short or quick remarks on this statement sought by my very good friend, who actually we attended the same college with, but at different times. Mr. Speaker, the MP for Chepalungu. Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that the KWS needs to be serious about human-wildlife conflict. Mr. Speaker, I think the people of Kenya love wildlife, but that love should not be taken for granted. I come from a constituency that hosts or where Roma National Park sits, and the same problem that faces Chepalungu with the leopard It's the same problem that the Ruba National Park is exposing my constituents to. The wildlife destroy crops, they sometimes attack people, and there is no, even when they come to your home, Mr. Speaker, KWS has even offering apology, simple apology from wildlife, KWS. You can't get that. Those of us who border Lake Victoria, we have a very big problem with hippos, Mr. Speaker, which these hippos come out of the lake at night and get into our farms and destroy crops. But when the citizen attack hippos, KWS react with a lot of anger. Yet the hippos come out and attack human beings. So, Mr. Speaker, the question you want to ask as a country, much as wildlife is very important to the economy of this country, between the life of a hippo, a leopard, or a human being, which one should be given priority? That is a question that we need to ask. So the committee needs to expand their investigation on this matter to address the whole question of human-wildlife conflict, all the way from Tsavo, visit Masai Mara, Amboseli, Roma National Park, Chepalungu, everywhere in the country, so that we have a policy in place that deals with this problem.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs.
Okay. The rest of the members who will be speaking to it, please be very brief, because it is not ordinary that we are giving you to comment on statements. So let's have the member, Honorable Mwadime, and let us be very, very brief so that the rest of the membership can have some say.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
I don't know why you are not very audible. I think the mic is not very good. So in the meantime, as you quickly move there, please. Quickly move to the dispatch mic. And let's be very brief, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I'm wishing a health year to all my colleagues here. Mr. Speaker, same problem which has just been raised on wildlife. First of all, Mr. Speaker, I think our priorities are the ones which are not okay. You know, when we are passing the Wildlife Act 2013, we said that budget committee should always allocate money to KWS so that they can fence up all areas. Like in my area, there's a fence between Mgeno to Buguta up to Kasarau. This fence we have been talking since 2014, but up to this very moment, nothing has been done, and there's a lot of damage because there are hyenas, leopards, lions, etc. And at the same time, where we say that they do fence, it's very interesting. They misuse the government money because there's a place where there's a hill between Cecil Estate and Mbwana Momu.
Okay.
In between the two, people go for money.
Now I'll have a problem if you go to the specifics. Because if you go to the specifics, then it means you need to ask for your own statement. So I would be happy with a situation whereby, of course, we are talking about the generalities of the human-wildlife conflict.
Anyway, Mr. Speaker, thank you,
yes,
but I support the concern raised by my colleague.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mwadime.
Speaker.
Honorable Sankok.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, because I know the specific location. It is in near Shongroi, where we have Moi Shongroi. Some of us have our kids in that school, and it is very dangerous, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker and Honorable Mbadi will agree with me today that this is a well-thought-out idea from a very educated member of this House, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is risky because when a leopard gives birth, it must feed the kids. And in the process of feeding the kids, the easier target is actually human beings. Because human beings will not be able...
Let's be very clear, Honorable Sankok, not the kids, the cubs. Because
the cubs.
If the kids is probably something else.
Honorable Speaker, what are you insinuating? You are insinuating that I'm not well learned. Anyway, Honorable Speaker.
No. I have
Okay, the Cubs.
I have no intention at all to insinuate anything.
You know,
I'm just, for purposes of record,
this is a reserve of
the people who will
Honorable
be
Madi.
answering to that statement
Yes.
might actually start working on the basis that there are some kids involved. So,
You know, I'm saying when the leopard have cubs, it must feed the cubs and feed itself because it have lost a lot. You know, the female honorable members know that after maternity, you really need some time to be fed. So in the process of feeding, it will go for the easier target. The easier target, Honorable Speaker, is you and me, because first, we don't smell, our eyesight is not that very hard, and again, we can be able, we are not able to run faster than the leopard, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, so the easier target is human beings. So the people of Chapalungu are at risk, Honorable Speaker. And coming from Narok, we have really lost a lot of people to leopard and to other carnivorous animals, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, the wildlife KWS should move with speed and save the people of Chapalungu. And in case that we have loss of human life, that blood will be upon the head of Kenya Wildlife Service. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Dawood. And that will be the last one. The rest of the members, you can go to the committees when it's being responded to. I can see there is a lot of interest.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to add my voice to the Honorable Member for Chapalungu. Mr. Speaker, in my constituency, we have had a rhino arc doing a fence. 2 days back, a big elephant was killed because it's been terrorizing our people. Mr. Speaker, I agree with the minority leader that we, as a House, we need to put aside more funds to pay compensation for wildlife because, Mr. Speaker, from 2013, 2014, to date, we are not being paid. Our people are not being paid. So, Mr. Speaker, as a House, we need to set aside more funds, like what Mheshimiwa Mwadime has said, so that we can pay our people for destruction. And KWS should do much more, because what they are doing is they are not doing enough. They need to protect our people, otherwise people will take arms in their hands, and elephants and all the other wildlife will go wherever they want to go. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Now, seeing the mood of the House, I'll add only two more very briefly. I will look out for the crocodile-invested areas, and then I will again, let's start, and then minorities here. Let's start with the Honorable Member for Tharaka. One word, and then I go to this other direction. I'll look out for anybody who has issues with the lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also support the request for statement by the Honorable Member for Chepalungu. And for the first time, let me be the devil's advocate by saying KWS has done something along the Meru National Park, where it borders Tharaka and the rest of the constituencies neighboring that park. Fencing is ongoing, in spite of the fact that it's quite slow, but the animals are actually still marauding in the area, and we are suffering great loss and damage. But most important is the question of snakes in the dry areas, which, whether they like it or not, they are also wild animals, and they are causing a lot of harm to human beings through snake bites. We try to seek compensation. We are told, no, there isn't sufficient money to compensate those who have suffered snake bites. But time has come for money to be allocated to KWS so that these people who suffer these bites are actually compensated.
Okay. I am told the crocodiles are more inclined to the northern Nyanza. The southern Nyanza, I've already spoken about the hippos. Let's have the member for Kisumu Town West, Honorable Luoch. I have been informed
Mr. Speaker.
I have been informed, and I think that probably would be confirmed by Honorable Lago, that the southern Nyanza lake is a bit too deep for the crocodiles, so they are better off in the northern one. Proceed, Honorable Lago.
Mr. Speaker, every time this House debates on the issue of human-wildlife conflict, we seem to forget that crocodiles and hippos are wildlife under the Act. And in my constituency, and I think all other constituencies around Lake Victoria, wildlife conflict between hippos, crocodiles, and fishermen is so rampant that lives have been lost, people have been maimed. I have had to once call a big meeting between KWS and the fishermen to discuss how they can coexist. But what I realized is KWS seems to treat wildlife as more precious than human life. And I think we better understand that within the Wildlife Act 2013, if a life of a human being is at danger, then that human being has an obligation to protect that life by killing that wildlife. We should understand that part. Wildlife is not more sacrosanct than human life. Mr. Speaker, in the upper parts of my constituency, in Akingley, for example, there are baboons that are very wise and they are very clever. Every time people want to chase them out of farms, the alpha male will stay behind and start pointing at women and shake at the heads like you are very stupid women. And that's an alpha male baboon. Mr. Speaker, in Kisumu West, for example, right from Musoma to the other beaches, Nachuda and the others, human lives have been lost. And I think the time has come for us to make it very clear to KWS, like Honorable Vadia said, if they're not able to offer the slightest apology to the people who are concerned, then at least they should be moving fast enough to compensate the people. Otherwise, the fishermen in Kisumu West are going to take the law into their hands and kill these hippos and crocodiles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, I am not going to give any more members. The rest of the membership can please go to the committee when it will be responded to. And that one is referred to the relevant committee, that's the Committee on Environment. And I would wish to see an indication of whether the chair is here or his vice or any member from that particular committee. If not, I will ask the majority leader to probably communicate to the chair, tell them that it would be good if they responded to this one in 2 weeks maximum, because actually a live issue that is still creating some tension in that particular area. So let's go to the next one, which is by Honorable Wamunyinyi, the statement by Honorable Wamunyinyi, who actually made a request, and I acceded to that, because it's an important statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The statement I want to give is on the status of receipts and disbursement of funds as of 9th February 2021 to our constituencies, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, the National Government Constituency Development Fund Board has received a total of 20 billion for financial year 2020-2021 against an allocation of 41 billion for this financial year, Mr. Speaker. That is to say about 50% of this year's allocation has been disbursed. Mr. Speaker, I have details of this disbursement, how it has been received from the Treasury, including the dates, and the last was on 4th of February 2021. This is not been released to the constituencies. That's about 2 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker. Now, the funds have been disbursed to the various constituencies against financial year 2020-2021 budgetary allocations and pending disbursements for previous financial years. And I think it's important, Mr. Speaker, that members pay attention to this one. The funds have been disbursed to this year's allocation, but also the pending previous financial years. Constituencies that have not received funds for the previous financial years have also been given the funds. And I've got a list of constituencies which have received, you know, the arrears for the last financial year. It's popularly known as arrears, Mr. Speaker. Now, of the 20 billion, 18 billion has been disbursed. 2 billion was received on 4th and is yet to be disbursed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also have details of how much has been disbursed for this year. Like for 2020-2021 financial year, to all the constituencies, only 2.364 billion has been disbursed towards this financial year, and that is about 9 million per constituency. Mr. Speaker, I've just said, you pay attention, out of 20 billion, I would like you to pay attention to my explanation so that we get to move together. I said, out of the 20 billion, we still have 2 billion in account. Then from the 18 billion, some of it went to this financial year, that's about 2.3 billion. The rest went to previous pending disbursements to our constituencies. And I've got a list of constituencies that have benefited from this, Mr. Speaker. And this is not entirely my problem. This was inherited because we're dealing with arrears from the other years. For this year, I have fought to get the funds. But because the arrears were our constituencies, they had to be paid, Mr. Speaker. And we just need to be reasonable about this so that we move together. Mr. Speaker, for financial year, an amount of 3.164 billion has been disbursed to the constituencies against allocations as follows. The board disbursed 2 million to constituencies that were in the process of receiving second half allocation for financial year 2019-2020 and 2018-2019 financial year to cater for administrative expenses amounting to 20 million. Mr. Speaker, this is quite self-explanatory because those constituencies did not receive those funds at the time. Constituencies whose project proposals had been deliberated on and approved by the board and had received funding for previous financial year received up to 9 million, which amounts to about 2 billion, Mr. Speaker. Further, the board disbursed 8 million to constituencies whose project proposals had been received but had not been deliberated on by the board, and those that had been deliberated on but deferred to cater for bursaries, emergencies, and administrative expenses amounting to 318 million, Mr. Speaker. The constituencies that had submitted their project proposals and those that had not requested for previous funding received 5 million to cater for emergencies and administrative expenses amounting to 89 million, Mr. Speaker. Now, disbursement status as of 2020-2021, 213 constituencies have received partial project funding, totaling to 1,937 million. 77 constituencies have received partial statutory allocation amounting to 427 million, Mr. Speaker. And 800 million has been disbursed to the Secretariat for its administrative and operational purposes. The previous financial year 2019-2020 disbursement status was as follows. 157 constituencies had received full allocation amounting to 21 billion 566 million 732,000. The Speaker, that is where the problem comes from. For the previous year, only 21 billion had been disbursed, and therefore it ate into this year's funds. And I'll tell you how we're going to address this issue, Mr. Speaker. Then 133 constituencies had received only 50% to 99%, which amounted to about 15 billion. Now, Kenya shillings 4 billion 170 million 703 had been disbursed to the constituencies with respect to previous financial year's allocation, 2018-2019, Mr. Speaker. And there's also 2003 and 2004 arrears which had not been paid. Honorable Speaker, regarding these arrears which have accrued over the years, the Cabinet Secretary, during an audience with the committee, Mr. Speaker, informed members that due to the low performance of revenue for the financial year 2019-2020 and due to the effects of COVID-19, the Treasury was not able to release the 13.7 billion in respect of financial year 2019-2020. This figure adds to the arrears of 4.98 billion, which had accumulated from the previous years, as I mentioned earlier, bringing the total figure of arrears to 18 billion 691,550,000. The committee resolved these arrears be factored in the coming supplementary budget, and this was in concurrence with the Cabinet Secretary. He agreed, and that is where now the problem, Mr. Speaker, is going to be addressed, that in the coming supplementary budget, there have to be funds factored to deal with those arrears. Otherwise, we're not going to resolve the problem. And a subcommittee was formed to pursue the matter with the Treasury to make sure that this is realized. Mr. Speaker, pending arrears from the National Treasury for previous financial years, as I've explained, will need to be addressed through that supplementary, which should be brought before the House sometime in the near future. And I have been in touch, Mr. Speaker, with the chair of the Budget Committee, and as we had the session with the Cabinet Secretary, it's been generally agreed that this is going to be done, Mr. Speaker, so that we can resolve these matters. Now, I have a list of constituencies that benefited, those that had arrears. If you wish to know, it's a long list. I can't read all of it. I'll take about an hour to go through all those. I think, Mr. Speaker, with the permission, I'll table it. And then, Mr. Speaker, the problem which we have, and members have been asking, where is our money? We received funds, as I've explained, but it went to arrears. Now, we have to address that question of arrears so that we resolve the issue. But again, we have about 50%, which is yet to be released for this financial year. And the Cabinet Secretary has assured us, last week, he released 2 billion, which is still in account. This week, he's expected to release 2 billion. And then from next month again, he's going to release 2 billion per week until we clear the area. We clear this financial year's allocation. Mr. Speaker, I am hoping that the Cabinet Secretary doesn't lie. It's unparliamentary to say he's lying. Mr. Speaker, I wish to appeal, members understand, and I think Honorable Malcolm Maore, who was the chairman, during which term these arrears were accumulated. It's me. I fought to get this 20 billion. But now this 20 billion has gone to pay the arrears that was accrued during his tenure as chairman of the committee. So he understands, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, of course, now that you have mentioned Honorable Maore, he will be given an opportunity.
I would like him to support this, Mr. Speaker.
To support it. But Honorable members, let's be very brief.
I think, Mr. Speaker, the problem we are facing is for the year 2020 to 2021, there are 3 months into the end of the financial year. That is March, April, and May. So if it's only 9 million we have received out of 137, I don't know why the chairman should be polite and the confusing data he's giving when he says that 18 billion is meant for the year 2020 to 2021. I don't know what he is saying. I cannot agree with him. 2, that 4.9 billion, as a committee, they are going to escort a scandal if they attempt to regularize it in any way. This is money for 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, which he cannot say which project they are funding now. So, Mr. Speaker, my committee for 3 years, we resisted allowing even 1 shilling into that areas. So the only areas we will support is of the 2019 to 2020. Anything else, even a shilling, Mr. Speaker, the committee should resist on record. Otherwise, I have never been near those kind of funny things.
Well, I hope, of course, the chair is noting some of these are very, very useful issues. So I'm going to give Honorable Bayaya, member for Kilifi North. Maybe not too many members speaking to it. I mean, the leader of minority and majority. And by the way, we should actually thank the leaders of majority and minority. They really worked very hard in pushing some of the monies. There is no point of order there. What is out of order? Nothing.
Mr. Speaker. Speaker, sir, what I would like to say is that this is one of those moments in this parliament that we are being dragged behind by a committee that from the face value of it, you see they're doing a good job. But what Malcolm Maure has said.
What is it, Honorable Rahim? You are insisting. What is it?
Mr. Speaker, he's not putting on his mask, and even Mheshimiwa Wamunyinyi, when he was reading his whole statement, he never put his mask. So, Mr. Speaker, I think you need to enforce it.
And the most common one, of course, in not putting his mask is, of course, the Dr. Honorable Amalwa. It happens all the time. But, honorable members, now we are going to enforce this because sometimes these are things that are extremely dangerous to colleagues. So let's use our masks because we have them. So let's proceed, Honorable. Yeah. Now that you have your...
Mr. Speaker, I think this issue of arrears, we would actually want to know, is it because the Member of Parliament for these constituencies did not submit their projects and that's why there are arrears, or government failed to remit money to these constituencies? Secondly, you also realize that what he's talking about, we've only received then 5% of the whole budget for the financial year. And we are actually in February of this year. Some constituencies are actually suffering. My constituency, which is one of the largest, I cannot give bursaries to the people there. Why? Because somebody else is dragging me behind. I think as a House, we need to meet this cabinet secretary who is pulling us down. The CDF fund is the only fund that is working. If you go to the counties and constituencies, you actually see projects that are working that are being done are from CDF. This is the only fund that the people of Kenya benefit from directly. Now, if we are going to be dragged behind, such that we become like counties who receive money almost, a peanut of it, we are going to drag this country down. And, my people are looking forward to CDF for development and for other things, not any other fund. So if CDF is going to be messed, the way we are saying it's going to be messed, I want to ask my friend, the chairman, please push this cabinet secretary so that we have money for the constituencies.
I notice, honorable members, that we are actually running behind our schedule, and we have a series of procedural motions to deal with. Now that I've given Honorable Atandi the floor, you can have a brief one, and then we probably will close it. Maybe I'll give somebody else up there. That probably will be the end.
Chair, yes, Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. Honorable Speaker, I have taken offense with the report which has been presented by the chair for CDF committee. Because, Honorable Speaker, what the chair has done is to come and convince us that things are working. When we know very well that we have just 4 months to the end of financial year, and we have not received even 10% of the allocations. So what are we saying, Honorable Speaker? That as a House, we should just wait for the arrears to be paid, yet we are supposed to implement the budget as passed in this House. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, we are going to take any further excuse. We are not going to take any further excuse. The leadership of this House must tell us where our money is, because the term of this Parliament is coming to an end, and I think this is the only financial year we are left with for us to implement projects and go for elections. So Honorable Speaker, we must compel the leadership of this House to ask Treasury to give us our resources for this financial year without any excuse. Otherwise, the excuse about the arrears, that is the problem of those constituencies that did not implement their projects. We want this House to tell us when are we going to receive half of our resources to do our projects. I think that's the message we need to have. And we have not elected a chairman of a committee to come and defend the executive in this House.
That is it, Honorable Atandi. We will now go.
Don't defend the executive here. Tell us how our money is.
Honorable Dahir. Dr. Dahir, sorry.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, actually, as members of Parliament, we have serious challenges with the flow of funds from CDF, mileage, subsistence, constituency office. And today, as we are in the 8th month of the financial year, and as has been read, the amount of money released is a trickle. And what we are saying is that CDF is one of the most feasible projects in the constituencies for bursaries, education, security, and so on. What we want to appeal to the executive is that all funds meant for Parliament, from CDF, constituency office, we should have clear timelines of these funds so that we don't get delays in releasing funds, which has really affected all programs downstream.
Thank you.
I think that's my appeal. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next order, please. Next order. Next order. Oh, did you want to say something? I mean, you have noted all those. The chair, you have noted that.
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But briefly, please. You can see.
Mr. Speaker, just to agree, I agree with members. I agree with members' concerns. The Treasury must release the funds that are remaining, but also for us to get the arrears, we need to pass the supplementary. But we're going to push this, and I think there's no doubt how much CDF is working. I was last weekend in Owen Bayer's constituency, Mr. Speaker, on the inspection tour, and we found a lot of good work going on there.
Okay.
So thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to assure members that we're going to continue to push until we get the funds released.
All right.
Thank you.
We go to the next order to save on time, honorable members.
Order number 8, procedural motion. Limitation of debates on bills sponsored by parties and committees.
Honorable members, there are about 12, if not, no, there are about close to 10 procedural motions, so we'll be moving pretty fast.
Yeah.
And please, let's maintain our numbers so that we can deal with this one way or the other.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I move this motion, I just want to appeal to the members that if we don't have these motions in place, then we will not be able to regulate how business is carried on in the House. So we will not be able to meet. It's very important that we at least set the basis. And I would need to appeal to members that we keep in the House so that we regulate the way we are going to carry on business for the rest of the year. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that, notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on bills sponsored by a committee, the leader of the majority party or leader of the minority party, be limited as follows. A maximum of 45 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee if the bill is not sponsored by the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of the majority party and leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each if the bill is not sponsored by either of them. And priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. Honorable Speaker, this will regulate how any of the bills that are sponsored by the parties and committees, the timings that will be given to the individual members to contribute. And this is in tandem with what we've been doing. I wish to move and ask the leader of the minority party to second.
Mr. Speaker, this is a procedural motion. I second.
Thank you. And I propose the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in debate on bills sponsored by a committee, the leader of majority party or the leader of minority party be limited as follows. A maximum of 45 minutes for the member in moving and 15 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee if the bill is not sponsored by the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of majority party and the leader of minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each if the bill is not sponsored by either of them, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of majority party and the leader of minority party and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. I put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on bills sponsored by a committee, the leader of majority party, or the leader of minority party be limited as follows. A maximum of 45 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying. A maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee if the bill is not sponsored by the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of majority party and the leader of minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each if the bill is not sponsored by either of them. And that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of majority party, the leader of minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, procedural motion, limitation of debate on individual members' bills.
Leader majority party.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on bills not sponsored by a committee and the leader of the majority party or the leader of the minority party be limited as follows. A maximum of 3 hours and 30 minutes with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except leader of the majority party and leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, leader of the minority party, and chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. Honorable members, this relates to your private members' bills. As you note, you will have a maximum of 3.5 hours to prosecute your bill and convince the membership to support or not, and the order in which members will have 10 minutes speaking. Again, this is procedural. It's in line with what we've done in the past. I beg to move and ask the leader of minority to second.
Leader of minority.
Mr. Speaker, again, reasoning is the same. I second.
Thank you very much. I think we are moving fairly well. So I propose a question which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on bills not sponsored by a committee, the leader of majority party or the leader of minority party be limited as follows. Maximum of 3 hours and 30 minutes, with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying. A maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee and 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of majority and minority party, which shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and the priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of majority party, the leader of minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. I put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in debate on bills not sponsored by a committee, the leader of majority party or the leader of minority party be limited as follows. A maximum of 3 hours and 30 minutes, with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of majority and minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and the priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of majority and the leader of minority party and chairperson of the relevant committee in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 10, procedural motion, limitation of debate on motions.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any motion, including a special motion, be limited in the following manner. A maximum of 3 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover and 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader of the majority party and leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. Again, Mr. Speaker, members will note that motions will not be 3.5 hours, will be actually 3 hours, with 10 minutes for each member. I beg to move and ask the leader of minority to second.
I second.
Very well. So I propose the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any motion, including a special motion, be limited in the following manner. Maximum of 3 hours, with not more than 20 minutes for the mover and 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that 10 minutes before the expiry of time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of majority party, the leader of minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Did we propose? Sorry. We'll have to come back to this one. I have just proposed the question. So I have not put the question. So ignore that part of my putting the question, because the first bit was to propose. So unless you want me to do it again and now put the question. Yes, so I'll now put the question, honorable members, and sorry for that. I put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in debate on any motion, including a special motion, be limited in the following manner. A maximum of 3 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover and 10 minutes for any other member in speaking, except the leader of majority party and leader of minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of majority party and the leader of minority party and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 11, procedural motion, limitation of debate on committee reports.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on committee reports, and members mark, this is a new one, except for reports of audit committees, including a report of a joint committee of the Houses of Parliament, or any other report submitted to the House, for which limitation of time has not been specified, shall be limited as follows. A maximum of 2.5 hours, with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant committee, if the committee report is not moved by the chairperson of the relevant committee, and that 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. And further, that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of the majority party and leader of the minority party in that order. Honorable members, this is there's a clear distinction between now reports from all other committees and reports of audit committees, which will be coming in the next order, because there's different timings that are given for that. So this is for the ordinary reports coming from committees and is in tandem with exactly what we've been doing. So I beg to move and ask the leader of minority to second.
Mr. Speaker, I think the leader of majority has offered the explanation. I just want to say I second the motion.
Very well. So I therefore propose the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, This House orders that each speech in a debate on committee reports, except for reports of audit committees, including a report of a joint committee of the Houses of Parliament, or any other report submitted to the House for which limitation of time has not been specified, shall be limited as follows. A maximum of 2.5 hours, with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of majority party and the leader of minority party and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee, if the committee report is not moved by the chairperson of that relevant committee, and that 10 minutes before the expiry of time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. And further, that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of majority party and the leader of minority party in that order. Now, I put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on the committee reports, except reports of audit committees, including a report of a joint committee of the Houses of Parliament, or any other report submitted to the House for which limitation of time has not been specified, shall be limited as follows. Maximum of 2.5 hours, with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of majority and minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant committee, if the committee report is not moved by the chairperson of that relevant committee. And at 10 minutes before the expiry of time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and that further, a priority shall be accorded to the leader of majority party and the leader of minority party in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 12, procedural motion, limitation of debate on reports of audit committees.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that, notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in debate on reports of audit committees, that is the PIC, PAC, and the Special Funds Audit Committee, be limited as follows. A maximum of 60 minutes for the mover in moving and 30 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of the majority party, leader of the minority party, and leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority be accorded to the leader of the majority party and leader of the minority party in that order. Honorable members, you note the essence of Parliament is oversight, and hence, as we must give maximum time to our audit committees to bring to the floor of the House all the issues that the House needs to be appraised on. And there's no limitation in terms of the time it will take for the audit report to be discussed. So that as we allow this, I just want to, that this is a new provision specifically applying to the PIC, PAC, and SFAC in terms of the time that you will be allocating to them for the mover to have a whole 1 hour to move the full report so that Kenyans can know what the auditors have come up with. And then you have 10 minutes for each of the members debating, and we hope that as many members as possible will participate. So there's no limitation in terms of the time until the mover is called upon to reply in the normal way. So, honorable members, this is a new one, and I hope that you will thank the House Business Committee for this provision. I beg to move and ask the leader of minority to second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me just to say a word. Take just less than a minute to say something about this procedural motion. You'll notice the difference is that we are allowing the chairs of audit committees to take 60 minutes in moving the motion, as opposed to reports of other committees, which is constrained to 20 minutes. Mr. Speaker, the difference is that the audit committees are required every year to do a comprehensive report covering various ministries, if it is PAC, and department and state agencies. And then ministries and departments. But then peak does for the parastatals. That requires more time. But Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I just want to, with all due respect to this House, that I think interest on audit committee reports is going down. Mr. Speaker, previously, whenever there was a report on the floor of this House from audit committees, there used to be robust debate, and members took their time to read these reports and contribute. I just want to urge that this year, being the most important year in our calendar as a 12th Parliament, that there will be a difference when it comes to debating the audit committee report. Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, I second.
Very well. So I propose a question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in debate on report of audit committees, that is PIC, PSC, and SFAC, be limited as follows. A maximum of 60 minutes for the mover in moving, and 30 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader of majority and minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and a priority shall be accorded to the leader of majority party and the leader of minority party in that order. I put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on report of audit committees, that is PIC, PSC, and SFAC, be limited as follows. A maximum of 60 minutes for the mover in moving, and 30 minutes in replying. A maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of majority and minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority shall be accorded to the leader of majority and leader of minority party in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Order number 13, procedural motion, limitation of debate on sessional papers.
Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any sessional paper shall be limited as follows. A maximum of 2.5 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party and the chairperson of the relevant committee, if the sessional paper is not moved by the chairperson of the relevant committee, at that 10 minutes before the expiry of that time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further, that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party in that order. Again, members, this is for all the sessional papers that will be laid in here. We expect most of the work will have been done at the committee, and hence we are giving more time to the committee. And you'll notice that even for the leader of majority and minority, we have decided to give ourselves equal time, at the same time as any other member, so that we have all 5 minutes each, and we should be able to prosecute any comments we have within the same 5 minutes. I beg to move and ask the, invite the leader of minority to second.
I second.
And therefore, I propose a question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any sessional paper shall be limited as follows. Maximum of 2.5 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other member, including the leader majority and leader minority party and the chairperson of the relevant committee, if the sessional paper is not moved by the chairperson of that relevant committee. And at 10 minutes before the expiry of time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and that a further priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of majority and minority parties in that order. And I put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any sessional paper shall be limited as follows. maximum of 2.5 hours, with not more than 20 minutes in moving and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of majority and minority party and the chairperson of the relevant committee, if the session paper is not moved by the chairperson of that relevant committee, and that 10 minutes before the expiry of that time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further priority shall be accorded to the leader of majority and minority parties in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contra opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
Order number 14, procedural motion, limitation of debate on the address by the President.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 97.4, and in furtherance of to the provisions of Standing Order number 24.6, this House orders that debate on the motion on the address by the President be limited to not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving, 20 minutes for the leader of the minority party, and 10 minutes for each of the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs to speak on the report submitted under Article 132(1)(ci) of the Constitution relating to the realization of the national values. Then the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations to speak on the report submitted under Article 132(1)(c)(3) of the Constitution relating to the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic, and the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security to speak on the report submitted under Article 247 of the Constitution relating to the state of the security of the country, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, other than 10 minutes before the expiry of the time the mover shall be called upon to reply. Again, Honorable Speaker, this for the benefit of members, there are some specific reports that are required of our Constitution to be tabled in the State of the Nation address, and hence the chairperson of the relevant committees will have priority and will also have more time than all of us, than the other members, in terms of the time allocated for them to comment on those issues and guide the House as we make our comments within our 5 minutes limitation. So again, this is in tandem with practice. I beg to move and ask the leader minority to second.
I second, Mr. Speaker.
And I propose a question. Order. Order. So I propose a question which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4 and in furtherance to provisions of Standing Order 24.6, this House orders that the debate on the motion on address by the President be limited to not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 20 minutes for the leader of the minority party. Yes, the minority party, and 10 minutes for each to the chairpersons of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs to speak on the report submitted under Article 132(1)(c), Roman 1 of the Constitution relating to the realization of the national values, the chairpersons of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations to speak on the report submitted under Article 132(1)(c), Roman 3 of the Constitution relating to the progress made in fulfilling international obligations of the Republic, and the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security to speak to the report submitted under Article 247 of the Constitution relating to the state of security of the country, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, and that 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. I put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, in furtherance to provisions of Standing Order 24.6, This House orders the debate on motions on address by the President be limited to not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 20 minutes for the leader of minority party and 10 minutes each for the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs to speak to the report submitted under Article 132(1)(c) Roman 1 of the Constitution relating to the realization of national values, the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations to speak to reports submitted under Article 132(1)(c) Roman 3 of the Constitution relating to the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic, and the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security to speak on the report submitted under Article 247 of the Constitution relating to the state of security of the country, and 5 minutes for for any other member speaking, and that 10 minutes before the expiry of time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. And as our contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 15, procedural motion, limitation of debate on reports of constitutional commissions and independent offices.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that in each speech in debate on reports of constitutional commissions and independent offices be limited as follows. A maximum of 4 hours with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader of the majority party and leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority be accorded to the chairperson of the relevant committee, leader of the majority party, and leader of the minority party in that order. Again, this is in tandem with the current practice. I beg to move and ask the leader of the minority to second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Someone, would you want to say something slightly more than it looks like it's a new one?
No,
the same one?
Okay. Actually, Mr. Speaker, there's really nothing much new on this because we have been receiving the reports of commissions and independent officers. Only that now we are clarifying and putting time limits. But, Mr. Speaker, that's not what I was smiling at. But you couldn't see my smiles because of the mask. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Owen Bayer has been showing me some news alert in the media that pro-Tangatanga MPs and pro-handshake MPs are facing off in Parliament. And your photo is appearing there. So I wonder what is this face-off, whether this procedural motion, there's been a face-off. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to second.
Isn't it true? They are facing each other because the seats are actually facing each other. And you know I'm facing you myself. So let me first propose a question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in debate on report of constitutional commissions and independent offices be limited as follows: a maximum of 4 hours and not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee, a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader majority and minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority shall be accorded to the chairperson of the relevant committee, the leader of majority party, and the leader of minority party in that order. Honorable Gikaria, you had an issue? Just brief ones. Let's hear what you have to say. What is it?
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, it's not much. It's not that I'm saying the majority leader should not always be asking the minority to assist in seconding. We are also here, and we can also second and be felt that our presence in Parliament this morning, that we are around. And all of us, we are together. And I'm not saying that the minority is not competent. He's a very competent legislator. So
which specific one did you want to second, Honorable Gikaria?
Any that the minority leader will ask me to second. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Duale, I see you have a point.
No, Mr. Speaker, I want to contribute, but I want to tell Honorable Gikaria, just like the President has a right to give who reads his speech, the leader of majority has the right who seconds. So you wait for your turn. You need to come and talk to the leader of majority. But I think procedurally we used to do it. We used to give to chairs. Maybe that's where it's coming from. But Speaker, I want to contribute. This is a very important motion on independent commissions and independent offices. And I played a role in the formation of this independent with Honorable Kimunya and Honorable Mbadi in the 10th Parliament. And they were formed for specific reasons. They were not formed to be an appendix of the legislature. They were not formed to be an appendix of the judiciary. Neither were they formed to be an appendix of the executive. Speaker, they must be independent, and we must debate their report. More specifically, the control of budget. Of course, we deal with one of the Auditor General through the Public Accounts Committee, IPOA, the Gender Commission, JSC. I am happy the judiciary always bring the judiciary, status of the judiciary, and JLAC must bring that report so that we also take into account the office of the DPP, EACC. We must set specific times to discuss the report of these commissions. So, Speaker, I have no problem. I mean, the way I get a car grant, MCS must get a car grant. But you see, the speed SRC is moving with that, and the speed which SRC doesn't want to move with the issues of the legislature tells you a lot. I mean, we had issues with the SRC, with Madam Mengich, on even our house allowance, and she went to court. The same SRC is moving with speed when it comes to another group called MCS. I have no problem, let them get the thing. So SRC is sending a signal that it's not independent, Mr. Speaker, and even the other offices. So how do you deal with that matter? We deal with this matter through a report table in this House. We have issues with the counties on basis of what is the ratio between staff employed and development. The controller of budget, currently, particularly, Agnes Odhiambo did a very good job as the first controller of budget. The current controller of budget, Mr. Speaker, and I will bring questions on that, the current controller of budget is not doing a serious oversight. So I think this is a very good motion going forward, and you have given us a timeline, more time to the leader of majority, but I think chairs of committees must bring reports. We're hearing of, we must get a report from IPOA, we must get a report from JSC, we must get a report even from the Parliamentary Service Commission. That is why they are created. They are called commissions and independent offices. And they are discussing the Constitution between Article 248 up to Article 251. So I think the leadership in the House Business Committee going forward, under the leadership of our able Speaker, we must create a particular week to discuss all reports of all these commissions. Look at, like EACC, how many people have been prosecuted, how many people have been charged, how many files have been returned. We go to the DPP. It is only Parliament, and they're only answerable to Parliament in terms of budget and in terms of appreciation. I support the motion.
I think we surely need a break. Let's have a Honorable Chepkut. That is probably the last one. Honorable Chepkut.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I arise to support the independent. During our first session, His Excellency the President said that as legislatures, our role is to protect, defend, and uphold the supremacy of our constitutional institution and its constitutional independent bodies. One is IPOA, just to mention a few. But I just want to say, we have confidence. We have confidence with our majority leader that if he puts the questions, let Honorable Mbadi, leader of minority, second. That is in order. That is, I am in agreement with that. So let's proceed. Put the question now. We have confidence. Yeah.
We surely needed that break to also recover from what we are doing. So I put the question now. Order, Honorable Chepkut. Order. I put the question which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each debate on report of constitutional commissions and independent officers be limited as follows. Maximum of 4 hours with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying. Maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader of majority and minority party, and the leader who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and priority shall be given, should be accorded to the chairperson of the relevant committee, the leader of majority party, and the leader of minority party in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contra opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 16, procedural motion, limitation of debate on the annual estimates and committee of supply.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on budget estimates contemplated under Standing Orders 239 and 240 be limited as follows. Number one, on the general supply debate, a maximum of 3 sitting days with 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying, a maximum of 15 minutes for each of the chairpersons of the departmental committees, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader of the majority party, a leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the respective chairpersons of the departmental committees in the order that they appear in the second schedule of the standing orders. And in the committee of supply, a maximum of 6 sitting days for the consideration of the proposed allocations to the respective votes and programs in the order specified in the schedule submitted by the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Honourable members, you'll note that, again, Parliament, our main job is really the appropriation of funds and supplying, in terms of where it will be applied. And hence, we are allocating 9 days, 3 at the committee, at the general supply debate, and then within the committee of supply, where the individual committees will defend their or present their budget, there's a maximum of 6 days. Now, traditionally, and we have seen that this interest waning, people used to agitate for more time to be given, and on the 6th day, you actually have a guillotine for anything not debated. But in the last 3 years or so, you found that after 1 day, there's even a cutting of the debate because there's not interest. And then we are not sure whether money has been allocated to the various departments to service our people. And even when we then go to interrogate it further, because if we don't interrogate at the allocation, then it becomes very difficult to interrogate at the implementation. And hence, I would like to ask members, again, this particular year, as we go towards setting the standards for the 13th Parliament, and also looking at what has happened in the last 4 years, that we actually put more time in debating for this budget cycle. Again, this is very important. I would have asked the Honorable Aisha Jumwa to second, but I realized that she has left. So allow me to move and ask the Honorable Kawira Mwangaza to second. Oh, it's not Kawira. Oh, yeah, you see. No problem. I want to ask the Honorable Sankok to second. I think the mask is changing.
Thank you very much.
I thought of Kawira because she's in house business. But, yeah.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you very much, Honorable the Majority Leader, for giving me this opportunity to second this procedural motion. And Honorable Speaker,
It is a very important motion, and I do second. Thank you very much.
That's all you required? So I will propose the question, which is that pursuant to Standing Order 97-4, this House orders that each speech in debate on report of Budget and Appropriation Committee on budget estimates contemplated under Standing Order 239 and 240 be limited as follows. The General Supplies debate, a maximum of 3 sitting days with 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 15 minutes for each of the chairpersons of departmental committees, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader of majority and minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and a priority shall be given in speaking shall be accorded to the leader majority party and the leader minority party, and the respective chairpersons of the departmental committees in that order, in the order they appear in the second schedule to the standing orders. And 2, the Committee of Supply, a maximum of 6 sitting days for the consideration of the proposed allocations to the respective votes and programs in order specified in the schedule submitted by the Budget and Appropriation Committee. Leader Minority wants to say something.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I really didn't wish to say much about this matter, but Mr. Speaker, there's something that I wanted to clarify on this whole issue of seconding and moving. It should be understood that procedural motions are actually a product of House Business Committee. So the reason why the leader of majority moves and then the leader of minority seconds is because it is assumed that we are the ones who understand why the motions are necessary. That's number one. Any other member from the House Business Committee could second, but Mr. Speaker, for us to have a bipartisan support to procedural motion, it has been a tradition. It didn't start in this parliament. Even in the last parliament, that was a tradition. So to save time, I think it's better just to have the leader of majority move. If the leader of minority is present, would second, and then that gives the impression that both sides of the House have supported the motion. The others, like the departmental committee reports, etc., any other member can second what the leader of majority. So I just wanted to clarify that. It's not that we are trying to load it over you as leadership of this House. It's just neat and tidy to do it that way. And I support. Thank you.
Yeah, you see, you'll have to understand that the Honorable Sankok is a fairly new member of this House. This has been going on for quite some time, really, between the leader, majority, and minority, as the case will be, because they will represent the entire, actually, as much as possible, they will be representative of the views of the House in a bipartisan manner. What is it, Honorable Limo? Are you...
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I'm not really standing to support my chair, Honorable Kikaria, but I want to agree with him somehow, Mr. Speaker, that the way the debate is going on in this House, especially the 12th Parliament, if you compare with the 11th Parliament, is totally different. The reason why he's a bit agitated, Mr. Speaker, is that there is a tradition which has started here that the moment it is proposed and is seconded, is proposed by the majority leader and seconded by the minority leader, all the members quickly say put the question, and therefore they deny the other members opportunity to contribute. So I want to urge this House to make this House very interesting the way it was in the 11th Parliament. Let us allow ourselves debate so that we can debate the issues very well, so that we cannot deny the minority here who are quiet the opportunity to contribute. So I want to encourage members, let us not rush to put the question without contributing. That is my contribution.
You may applaud the Honorable Limo, but the truth of the matter is some of these things are basic and straightforward. I mean, if it is a question of limiting time, if from the word go we are talking about debate being limited to a certain timeline, really there is nothing much, in my opinion, that the members can add. Well, and if they really want to add, I would suggest even a better thing. If you really think there is something that you need to rectify, you can as well propose to amend it, or you reject it, really, because they are basic. So much as I agree with Honorable Limo, of course, that members must debate robustly, but also members must be keen to know that there are some motions that do not need unnecessary long debate on it. So both sides, I think, are fairly correct, but I'll proceed and do what I'm supposed to do, which is to put the question, which is that limitation of debate, which is that pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 97-4, this House orders that each debate on the report of Budget and Appropriation Committee on budget estimates contemplated under Standing Order 239 and 240 be limited as follows. 1, the general supply debate, a maximum of 3 sitting days with 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 15 minutes each for the chairpersons of the departmental committees, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader, majority, and minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each. That priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of majority and minority party and the respective chairpersons of the departmental committee in that order. In the order they appear in the second schedule to the standing orders. And 2, the Committee of Supply, a maximum of 6 sitting days for the consideration of the proposed allocation to the respective votes and programs in order specified in the schedule submitted by the Budget and Appropriation Committee. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 17, procedural motion. Limitation of debate on the Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that each speech in the general debate contemplated under Standing Order number 146, which relates to consideration of Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, be limited as follows. A maximum of 1 hour and 30 minutes, with not more than 15 minutes for the mover in moving, 15 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including leader of the majority party and leader of the minority party, if the bill is not party-sponsored, and at 5 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. And further, that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of the majority party and the minority party and chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. Honourable members, this relates to when we refer to a bill that originates in the National Assembly and affects counties, and hence when we refer it to the Senate and they make any amendments or whatever report they will give us, we don't expect a lot of debates on this because it's either they have agreed or not agreed with the original bill. And hence, that's why the debate is being limited to a maximum of 1.5 hours to either agree with the Senate or disagree. If we disagree, it goes for mediation. If we agree, it goes for assenting. So again, it's a fairly straightforward issue here. And I noticed that the deputy whip of the minority has been very present in the House today. So I beg to move and ask that the Honorable Dr. Eseli second.
Dr. Eseli for seconding.
Madam Speaker, I second.
Very well. Now, members, I propose the question, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 97-1, This House orders that each speech in the general debate contemplated understanding order number 146, that is consideration of Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, be limited as follows. A maximum of 1 hour and 30 minutes, with not more than 15 minutes for the mover in moving, 15 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant department or committee, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of majority party and the leader of the minority party, if the bill is not party-sponsored. And that 5 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. And further, that priority in speaking shall be according to the leader of majority party, the leader of minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order.
Good.
Is it the mood of the House that I put the question? Then, members, it being the mood of the House that I put the question, I move to put the question. That pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 97-1, this House orders that each speech in the general debate contemplate under Standing Order number 146, that is consideration of Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, be limited as follows. A maximum of 1 hour and 30 minutes, with not more than 15 minutes for the mover in moving, 15 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant department or committee, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of majority party and the leader of the minority party. That is, if the bill is not sponsored, party-sponsored. And that 5 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. And further, that priority in speaking shall be according to the leader of majority party, the leader of minority party, and chairperson of the relevant department or committee in that order. Other members will, as many as of the opinion say aye, and as many as of contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Next.
Order number 18, consideration of certain business received during the recess period.
Leader of majority to move. Leader of majority, give him the mic to move.
Honourable members, we only have 2 more, so if you could hold, we are getting to the most important ones. Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Orders number 41 and 42 relating to conveying of messages from the Senate and from the President or the National Executive, this House orders that during the short and long recesses of the 5th session, 1, upon receipt of any message from the Senate or upon receipt of any name of a person nominated for appointment to a state or public office from the President or any other office in the National Executive, the Speaker shall forthwith refer such message to the relevant committee for consideration without having to recall the House and report such fact to the House on resumption. And 2, upon receipt of any message relating to the Senate amendment to a bill originating in the National Assembly, the Speaker shall forthwith refer the schedule of the Senate amendment to the relevant committee for consideration pursuant to the provision of Standing Order number 145, Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, and report such fact to the House on resumption. Honourable members, you know that, Honourable Speaker, the members will know that traditionally every time we are going for recess, I move this motion to cover the period when we are on recess in terms of how business will be transacted, in terms of messages that are being received. And because this is a routine thing, what the House Business Committee decided is that we have one approval for the entire session, rather than have to keep on going through this motion every time we are going on long or short recess. So again, this is just fast forwarding what we do at the end, and that we do it upfront. And again, it's fairly straightforward. We do it every time. And hence, I would wish to move and ask the Honourable Owen Baya to second.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Yes,
And,
Mbaya, for second, yeah.
I'd like to second. I think this is a fairly regular procedure in this House, that every time the House is in recess, we order that when the Speaker receives communication from the President of the Senate, then he can communicate that. So, Madam Speaker, I second. Thank you.
Very well. The motion has been moved and seconded procedurally. Members, I propose a question. Order. Order. Let me give the two members who abstained just time to resume their seat, if they so wish. I move to propose a question which is as notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Orders number 41 and 42 relating to conveying of message from the Senate and from the President of the National Executive. This House orders that during the short and long recess of the 5th session, 1, upon receipt of any message from the Senate or upon receipt of any name of a person nominated for appointment to a state or public office from the President or any other office in the National Executive, the Speaker shall forthwith refer such a message to the relevant committee for consideration without having to recall the House and report such a fact to the House on resumption. And 2, upon receipt of any message relating to the Senate amendment to a bill originating in the National Assembly, the Speaker shall forthwith refer the schedule of the Senate amendments to the relevant committee for consideration pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 145, that is Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, and report such fact to the House on resumption. Honorable Member for Kitutu Masaba. I put the question? Yes. Well, you know, you must listen to the House. And Honorable 001 is very good at shouting, put the question. And he's not the only member here, so I must get consent of the House. Order, order. All the other members are keen. Members, I move to put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Orders number 41 and 42 relating to conveying of messages from the Senate and from the President of the National Executive, these House orders that during the short and long recess of the 5th session, 1, that upon receipt of any message from the Senate or upon receipt of any name of a person nominated for appointment to a state or public office from the President or any other office in the National Executive, the Speaker shall forthwith refer such a message to the relevant committee for consideration without having to recall the House and report such fact to the House on resumption. And 2, upon receipt of any message relating to the Senate's amendment to a bill originating in the National Assembly, the Speaker shall forthwith refer the schedule of the Senate's amendments to the relevant committee for consideration pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 145, that is the Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, and report such fact to the House on resumption. Other members will, as many as of this opinion, say aye. Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
So I would ask that you pay attention. I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 28, this House approves the calendar of the National Assembly regular sessions for the 5th session 2021, which is contained in the schedule, and that schedule has been attached to your order paper, and further resolves as follows. Variations during the first part of the session. That notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 30, during the first part of the session, which is the period running from yesterday, which is February 9th, to May the 6th, 2021, number A, the sitting of the House of Wednesday, February the 10th, 2021, afternoon, which is today afternoon, shall stand suspended. Number 2, all Wednesday morning and afternoon sittings will stand suspended with effect from February 17th, that is from next week. So no sittings at all on Wednesdays. And then C, the House will hold sittings on Tuesdays and Thursdays as follows. On Tuesday, in the afternoon, from 2:30 to 6 p.m. And on Tuesdays, a second session, an evening session, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. On Thursdays,
Leader of Majority, I know you've been here since morning and you've done a great job, but I can see the passion that you have to move and for the members to understand exactly. But when we are moving, please just do it, read the text as it is, and then I'll have time to explain to them. And thank you.
Thursdays morning from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Number 4, Thursdays afternoon from 2:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And 5, Thursdays evening from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Individual members' business, which is number 2, that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 43, on Thursday mornings, business not sponsored by the majority party, the minority party, or a committee shall have precedence over all other business in such order as the House Business Committee shall determine. And commencement of the 6th session, number 3, that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 27(1), providing for the date of commencement of a new session, the House shall resume for the 6th session on Tuesday, 25th of January, 2022 at 2:30 p.m. Honorable members, I just want to highlight a few things so that we appreciate what we are about to approve. And the first one is approving our calendar, which will basically state, and it's in 3 parts, one that runs between yesterday, when we sat last, going all the way to 6th of May, when we expect to have a long recess. Then it has a second part, which again moves from June to the time we go for recess in August. And then we come back in September and eventually go for the long recess on 3rd of December. So because we are still under the COVID regulation and threat, during the first part, which is basically between now and end of May, pending further information on what the conditions will be like, the House Business Committee decided that we meet only on Tuesdays and Thursdays to allow for Wednesday for time for fumigation of the chamber, and during that time, members who also do part of the committee business. But you realize that even as we, from our own experience in the last 1 year, when we only meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we only have 3 sittings. And if we dedicate 1 sitting to private members' bills, we are only left with 2 sittings. We are sitting on close to 100 bills. And members will remember that we saved all the bills, petitions, and all that from the previous sessions. We have only 1 year. And if we are to continue as business as usual, we will find ourselves with your bills will never have time to be discussed. The discussion the Honorable Limo was asking that we need to have more members speaking will not take place. So what House Business Committee decided to do, and in keeping with practices elsewhere in the House of Commons, in the Congress in the US, is to create an extra session so that on Tuesdays, we'll start from 2:30, and at 6:30, that being the afternoon session. Members will then have a half-hour break, and then start another session from 7 to 9. So that members who are busy in the afternoon sorting out their constituency matters in offices will have an opportunity to then come at 7 and be able to transact business between 7 and 9, while also allowing for the traffic to ease rather than stick all the time in the jam. So we want to create that extra 2 hours on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and especially also to dedicate part of that to transacting your private members' bills and some of the things that we need to fast track. You also know that this being the year just before elections, people will start wanting to concentrate on constituencies. So if during this first part, we can load most of the bills between now and May, then as we finish the budget cycle in June, July, we can at least relax, so give members more time to be out there. So it's a bit of sacrifice that we are asking, and by also giving members an opportunity to transact business in the evening, which currently we don't do. So we end up with 5 sessions. The evening session is a light one. It's only 2 hours, but it's a session all the same. And we will at least be able to allocate all the business that we have and finish as much as possible. The other thing I just wanted to mention is obviously that this session, you remember, this session we started yesterday on the 9th of February. But next year being an election year, we need to gain some 2 weeks. So we will start earlier, which is the 25th of January, because we need to move forward all the budget processing, because with the elections in August, you really want to, and also we need some 60 days before August for members to go and do their campaigns, etc., the final recess. So it's important that we actually do fast track most of the business, and including coming back earlier from recess next January. So that in a nutshell is the new calendar, and it's something we thought through it, and we believe it's in the best interest of members and the House to at least optimize on the time that we have between now and in the new year. So again, I want to ask members that you agree with the House Business Committee. We've done this in your best interest and in the best interest of the country to ensure that we transact as much business as possible. We're also giving you maximum time to choose between the 3 sessions or the 2 sessions in the day to allow you to at least be present, and also to give as many members as possible an opportunity to be seen in the House contributing, because we are going to an election and your electorate will be watching for you. So the more time we give you, the more exposure we give you to articulate the issues relating to your constituency and also for the country. So again, I beg to move, and on this one, allow me to ask the leader of the minority to second, because it's a weighty issue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to second this motion and just say the following. Number one, I think the leader of majority has articulately explained that Wednesdays, which should have been a preferred sitting day for us, actually I've been sharing with some of my colleagues, and Wednesday would have been better than Thursday, because most members would want to start traveling to the constituencies. But then, Wednesday, we have been advised that since COVID-19 is still around with us, we need that day to fumigate. And so we would sit on Tuesday, have Wednesday for our staff to do what is the best in our interest, and then have Thursday sittings. Now, we looked at the life of this parliament, and I want to thank the membership of this House. The 12th parliament, contrary to perception out there, I think in the year of COVID, when we had a lot of challenges, it is clear that we passed and have had 23 bills assented to into law. That is just one bill less than what we did the previous year. So the other year it was 24, last year it was 23. And this year we are likely to do even much better. So we did not underperform even at the time of COVID. But in the previous, before COVID, we used to sit in this chamber for 12.5 hours in a week. On Tuesdays, we used to sit for 4.5 hours. On Wednesdays, we used to sit for 16 hours. 16 hours in a week. We used to sit for 4.5 hours. On Tuesdays, Wednesdays, we used to have 2 sittings cumulatively, about 6 hours in the Wednesday, and then 4.5 hours on Thursday. That cumulatively brings us to about 16 hours. Madam Speaker, if we don't create more sittings for Tuesday and Thursday, we will be sitting very few hours in a week. And therefore, we looked at this matter as a House Business Committee and felt that we need to sacrifice, given that this is the most critical session of the 12th Parliament. The next session, which is the 6th session, starting in January, you will see very few members will find time to come to the chambers. That has been the tradition over the years. Therefore, creating 4 hours on Tuesday, which is 2:30 to 6:30 p.m., and then on the same Tuesday, we add 2 more hours, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., have 3 hours on Thursday morning, have another 4 hours on Thursday afternoon, and 2 hours on Thursday evening gives us 15 hours, just about 1 hour short of our regular settings. And so, Madam Speaker, I want to just plead with this House to agree with the House Business Committee and create these extra hours. I know in the evening people would find it not very easy to be present in the chamber. But again, Madam Speaker, that is what happens everywhere in the world. You see how the Congress sits, even the Senate, or the American Senate is now sitting to transact business of impeachment, and they do it even up to night. And those are very old people. And weekends, sometimes they come. And you look at them, Madam Speaker, you get inspired because they look very old and tired, but they still find time to sit in the chambers and debate and do duty to the nation. Most of us, Madam Speaker, here are less than 60 years. This House is a very youthful House. I would urge that we use our strength and energy to give more time to what is important, because the Constitution under Article 95 gives us the responsibility to resolve, debate, and resolve issues that are of concern to the people of this country. This is not a sacrifice that we cannot, this is a sacrifice that I feel we can afford to give to this country. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I second.
And with that, members, I propose the question, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 28, this House approves the calendar of the National Assembly, that is regular sessions for the 5th session 2021 as contained in the schedule, and further resolves as follows. Variations during the first parts of the session, that's 1, that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 30, during the first parts of the session, February to May 6, 2021, A, the sitting of the House of Wednesday, February 10th, 2021 afternoon shall stand suspended. B, all Wednesday morning and afternoon sittings will stand suspended with effect from February 17th, 2021. C, the House will hold sittings on Tuesdays and Thursdays as follows. 1, Tuesdays afternoon from 2:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. 2, Tuesdays evening from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. 3, Thursdays morning from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. 4, Thursdays afternoon from 2:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And 5, Thursdays evening from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Individual members' business. That is 2, that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 43, on Thursday mornings, business not sponsored by the majority party, the minority party, or a committee shall have precedence over all other business, in such order as the House Business Committee shall determine. Commencement of the 6th session. That is 3, that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 27(1), providing for the date of commencement of new session, the House shall resume for the 6th session on Tuesday, January 25th, 2022 at 2:30 p.m. I put the question? Yes. I'm cleared by the House for me to be able to put the question. And members, I move to put the question, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 28, this House approves the calendar of the National Assembly regular sessions for the 5th session 2021 as contained in the schedule, and further resolves as follows. Variations during the first part of the session. 1, that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 30, during the first part of the session, that is February 9 to May 6, 2021, A, the sitting of the House of Wednesday, February 10th, 2021, afternoon, shall stand suspended. B, all Wednesday morning and afternoon sittings will stand suspended with effect from February 17th, 2021. C, the House will hold sittings on Tuesdays and Thursdays as follows. Roman 1, Tuesdays afternoon from 2:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Roman 2, Tuesdays evening from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Roman 3, Thursdays morning from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And 5, Thursdays afternoon from 2:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And 5, Thursdays evening from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. On individual members' business, under 2, that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 43, on Thursday mornings, business not sponsored by the majority party, the minority party, or a committee shall have precedence over all other business, in such order as the House Business Committee shall determine. Commencement of the 6th session. That is under 3. That notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 27(1), providing for the date of commencement of a new session, the House shall resume for the 6th session on the Tuesday, January 25th, 2022 at 2:30 p.m. Honourable members, will as many as are of this opinion say aye? And as many as are contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Members, this brings us to the hands of the business, which we had for the morning as in order paper. And now there being no any other business, and members, the time being 11:45 a.m., this House stands adjourned till tomorrow, Thursday, 11th February 2021 at 10 a.m. Thank you.